My husband returned from a business trip, acting strange. A week later, he complained about feeling sick. I took him to the doctor, and when the results came in, he turned pale. I crossed my arms and said, "So, who is she?" "My name is Sarah, and I've been married to my husband, Mark, for 10 years. We live in Chicago, and for the most part, our life together has been pretty stable. Mark works in sales, which means he occasionally goes on business trips, but he's always been good about keeping in touch when he's away. About a month ago, Mark had to go to New York for a week-long conference. Nothing out of the ordinary. He called me every evening, telling me about his day and how the conference was going. But when he came back, something felt off. He seemed distant, distracted. I chalked it up to exhaustion from the trip. But as the days went by, his behavior became more concerning. He was constantly on his phone, guarding it like a hawk. He'd step out of the room to take calls and became irritable when I asked him about it. A week after his return, Mark started complaining about feeling unwell. He mentioned fatigue, headaches, and a general sense of being unwell. I insisted he see a doctor, and he reluctantly agreed. We went to our family physician, Dr. Patel, who ran a series of tests. A few days later, we were called back to discuss the results. Dr. Patel looked serious as he addressed Mark. "Your tests came back positive for chlamydia." I felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Mark's face turned pale, and he stammered, That's not possible." Dr. Patel continued, "Chlamydia is a sexually transmitted infection. It's treatable, but it's important to inform any recent partners so they can get tested as well." I turned to Mark, my arms crossed over my chest. "So, who is she?" He couldn't meet my eyes. "Sarah, I'm so sorry." The rest of the conversation is a blur. We left the doctor's office in silence. Once we got home, Mark confessed. During his business trip, he'd gone out for drinks with some colleagues. He met a woman at the bar, and one thing led to another. I was devastated. 10 years of marriage, and this is what it had come to. He begged for forgiveness, saying it was a one-time mistake and that he regretted it deeply. I needed time to think. I stayed with my sister for a few days, trying to process everything. The betrayal, the risk he'd exposed me to, the broken trust. In the end, I decided that I couldn't stay in the marriage. Trust, once broken, is hard to rebuild. We filed for divorce shortly after. It's been a tough journey, but I'm focusing on healing and moving forward. Sharing this here has been cathartic. If anyone else has been through something similar, know that you're not alone. After that day at the doctor's office, everything changed. I moved into my sister's spare bedroom while Mark stayed in our condo. I didn't take much with me, just enough clothes for the week and my laptop. I needed space. I needed to think. I wasn't ready to make any big decisions yet. Every time I looked at my phone, there was a new message from Mark. Apologies. Explanations. Long paragraphs saying it was a mistake, that he was drunk, that it meant nothing. He promised it only happened once. He swore he still loved me. I didn't reply. 3 days later, I got tested too. I felt humiliated sitting there, explaining to the nurse why I needed a full panel of tests. Luckily, everything came back negative. But that didn't make me feel better. It just made it real. I couldn't stop picturing him with someone else. Some stranger in a New York hotel room. While I was at home, folding his clothes, sending him texts saying, "Miss you," he was out there doing that. A week went by. Then 2. I told him I wanted a break. He kept pushing to talk in person. I refused. Then something strange happened. I was at work. I'm a receptionist at a dental clinic, and this woman came in for a cleaning. Mid-30s, well-dressed, looked kind of nervous. She handed me her ID and insurance card. I froze. Her last name was the same as the hotel Mark stayed at. Odd, I know, but something about her face felt familiar. I'd seen it before. Somewhere. And then it hit me. She was in one of the background photos Mark posted on Instagram during his trip. A bar photo. Blurry, but there. Smiling, laughing with a group. My stomach dropped. I tried to stay professional, but my hands shook as I typed her info. I wanted to ask her a million questions, but I couldn't do that. Instead, I excused myself, went to the bathroom, and sat on the toilet for 10 minutes trying not to cry. When I came back out, she was gone. That night, I told Mark. I said, "Was it her?" I sent him the name. He didn't deny it. Just said, "How did you find out?" That was all I needed. 2 days later, I got a call from a blocked number. I don't usually answer those, but I picked up. "Is this Sarah?" "Yes. This is Julia. I think we need to talk. It's about Mark." It was the woman from the dental clinic. She said she didn't know he was married. He told her he was divorced, that I had cheated on him. She said they met at the hotel bar, and that he made her believe he was just a lonely guy starting over. They slept together that night, and a few more times that week. She was crying on the phone. I had no idea. I wouldn't have if I knew. "I'm so sorry." I didn't know what to say. I just hung up. The next day, I packed my things and went back to the condo. Mark was there. He looked like he hadn't slept. I told him I wanted the truth. The full truth. Everything. That's when he cracked. He told me it wasn't just New York. He'd been cheating for over a year. Business trips were just easy excuses. There had been 2 other women. Maybe 3. He didn't even sound sure. I stared at him. "Why?" "I don't know," he said. It got out of control." I couldn't speak. I walked into our bedroom, took my suitcase, and left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't yell. I just left. That night, I went to a bar, not the kind of place I usually go, and sat in a corner with a glass of wine. I stared at my phone. My hand hovered over the contacts list. I didn't know who to call. My parents? Too complicated. My sister? She had kids and didn't need more drama. Then, I saw Julia's name. I called her. Can we talk in person? I asked. She said yes. We met the next day at a coffee shop near the lake. She was even more nervous than I was. She apologized again. Said she felt horrible. But what she told me next made my head spin. Sarah, I don't know how to say this, but I think I might be pregnant. My stomach turned. I miss my period. I'm never late. And I haven't been with anyone else. I stared at her, trying to breathe. I haven't taken a test yet, she said. I'm scared. Neither of us said anything for a while. Finally, I said, if you are, it's not your fault. He lied to you. You didn't cheat. He did. She nodded. I'm not keeping it. I can't. I didn't judge her. I couldn't. We were both victims in different ways. I left the coffee shop and went straight to my lawyer. I told her I was ready to file. But just when I thought the worst was over, another message popped up on my phone. It was from a woman named Becca. She said, I don't know if you know who I am, but I was seeing Mark for a few months last year. He told me he was separated. I just found out he's still married. I thought you should know. That made 4 women. 4. And something told me that might not be the end of it. I stared at Becca's message for a long time. My chest was tight. I reread it over and over, not because I didn't understand, but because I didn't want to. I messaged her back, careful with my words. When exactly were you seeing him? Her reply came fast. Started in March last year. Ended around August. I found out he was messaging someone else, so I cut it off. That timeline overlapped with our anniversary trip to Lake Geneva. The one he said was a fresh start for us after a rough patch. The one where he surprised me with a spa day and dinner by the lake. The same trip where he kept sneaking off to take work calls. I felt sick. I asked Becca if they had met during a trip too. She said no, they met in Chicago. He told her he was going through a messy divorce and that we were living apart. And then she dropped a bomb I didn't see coming. He told me you were violent, that you'd hit him once and that he was afraid of you. I dropped my phone. I had never, in all our years together, laid a hand on Mark. Not even during an argument. I felt rage boiling under my skin. Every woman, every lie, every medical result. I wasn't just ending a marriage now. I was building a case. Because if he'd said that to Becca, who else had he said it to? My reputation, my future, he'd put it all at risk. The next twist came 2 days later. I was at work again, trying to pretend my life wasn't falling apart, when I got a call from my bank. They asked if I had recently authorized a $5,000 wire transfer to a private account. I hadn't. Turns out Mark had access to one of our joint savings accounts, an account we rarely used, and he had moved money out without telling me. I hadn't noticed because I stopped checking it. It was supposed to be for emergencies only. I confronted him that night over text. His response, I needed it. Things have been tight. I'll pay it back. I told him it wasn't his to take, that the account was under both our names, and that we had agreed not to touch it unless it was something we both signed off on. Then he said, you're acting like this is all mine. You're not perfect either. That line stayed with me. It was like he couldn't admit he was wrong without dragging me down too. Like if I reacted with anger or pain, it proved his story about me being unstable was true. That I was emotional, hard to live with, impossible to please. A week later, Julia messaged me again. I took the test. It's positive. I didn't reply. A few days after that, she messaged again. Mark won't respond to me. He blocked my number. I'm scared. I didn't owe her anything, but I couldn't ignore her either. So I sent her my lawyer's contact. I told her, if he denies it, you'll need proof. Talk to her. She'll help you get a paternity test when the time comes. Then I warned my lawyer. She said we could file a motion to freeze the joint accounts. She also suggested a forensic accountant. I was spiraling. My life was spiraling. Every day it felt like something new was unraveling. But then came the final twist that changed everything. I got a call from Mark's boss, a woman named Diane. She said, Sarah, I don't usually get involved in my employees' personal lives, but I think you should know something. Apparently, Mark had been using his business trips as cover, not just for cheating, but for doing freelance sales consulting on the side, under a fake business name. He had been taking commissions off books, lying to his company, and using those extra trips to meet clients and women. He had even booked some of those flights using the company's travel budget. She said, we're conducting an internal investigation. If it turns out he violated company policy or committed fraud, we'll be terminating him. So now he wasn't just a cheater. He was about to lose his job. Julia didn't know yet. Becca didn't either. I didn't know how many other women were still out there. And worst of all, I had no idea what he would do once his world started falling apart. He was unraveling fast, and I had the sinking feeling the worst wasn't over. It all came to a head on a Sunday. Diane from Mark's company had called earlier that week to say the internal investigation was done. They were terminating him for misuse of company funds, lying about expenses, and undisclosed freelancing. She said they'd be pursuing legal action if he didn't return the stolen funds. I thanked her, hung up, and felt hollow. Not even angry at that point. Just tired. I hadn't told Mark yet, but I knew I had to. So I asked him to meet me at a neutral place, his favorite diner, ironically. He showed up late, looking like hell. Hair unwashed, I sunken. He sat across from me, didn't even try to smile. You look terrible, I said. I meant it. He did. He said nothing. Just stirred his coffee. I know about the money. The fake consulting. The company knows too. You're fired, Mark. That got his attention. He looked up, blinking, like I'd slapped him. What? I talked to Diane. He laughed once, low and bitter. Of course you did. You always had to stick your nose in everything. That pushed me over the edge. No, Mark. I stuck by you. I trusted you. And you turned our marriage into a joke. Then came the confrontation. The real one. Voices started rising. People were watching. I didn't care. You cheated on me with 4 different women, maybe more. You gave me an STI scare. You stole money. Lied to everyone. And when that wasn't enough, you told people I was violent. That I was abusive. He slammed his hands on the table. Because you are. You're cold, Sarah. Controlling. You act like you're better than everyone. You pushed me into this. Gasps came from 2 booths away. I stayed still. You slept with other women because I made you feel small? You lied and stole and destroyed everything we built because I expected honesty. He didn't answer. Then, from the entrance, I saw her. Julia, holding her coat tight around her, belly still flat, eyes wide. She must have followed him. Or maybe me. I don't know. She walked straight to the table. Her voice was shaking. I wanted to tell you in person. I'm keeping the baby. Mark turned white. She continued. And I've already started the paperwork for child support. I don't care if you're broke. You will be involved. Or you'll deal with the courts. He opened his mouth, then shut it again. There was nothing he could say. Not anymore. Julia turned to me. I'm sorry, Sarah. I didn't know. I swear. I nodded. I know. Mark just sat there, staring at the table like if he looked long enough, he'd disappear. Then Becca showed up. No joke. Like fate wanted to end it with fireworks. She had gotten wind from Julia. We had all started texting, trading truths like receipts. Becca walked up, calm but furious. She slapped a manila envelope down on the table. Thought you'd want these back. Love notes. From your lonely divorcee phase. I kept them. Don't know why. She turned to me. You deserve better. Then she turned on her heel and left. And there he was, my husband, or whatever was left of him, surrounded by the ruins of his own creation. 3 women, 1 unborn child, a stack of fake letters, a severance package waiting in his inbox, and no one left to lie to. He looked at me like he wanted to speak, to say something to save face, maybe even to beg. I stood up. You need help, Mark. But I'm not the one who's going to save you. I left. Immediate aftermath? A mess. Julia texted me that night, saying he tried calling her nonstop. Becca blocked him. My sister, bless her, cooked me pasta and sat with me while I cried. Not because I missed him, but because I didn't recognize who I had loved all those years. People at work whispered. News spreads. One of my coworkers asked me if it was true he had been living a double life. I nodded. She hugged me in the break room. It felt strange. Human. Like I wasn't alone. The betrayal changed me. I don't check my phone compulsively anymore. I don't wait for an apology that never comes. I've started journaling again. Therapy too. I'm rediscovering myself, bit by bit. And you know what? I feel relief. Real relief. I don't want him back. I don't want revenge. I want peace. Julia and I talk sometimes. She's due in 7 months. She says she's scared but stronger now. I believe her. We were both burned by the same fire. Somehow that bonds people. Mark? Last I heard, he was couch surfing and applying for jobs. Still telling half-truths. Still hoping someone will fix what he broke. But not me. I chose myself. And that saved me.